Do you remember when we first started chatting?
Did you send me
Because
a
I
rope?
remember
Did you
why
send me a
we
rope
first
picture
started
or what?
chatting. No, I remember why we first started chatting, and it's extremely embarrassing from my seat.
Tell me about this.
This is good. It's so embarrassing. And I thought about this. I'm like, do I tell him this or do I not? But I'm just gonna tell
Well,
you.
you're gonna have
And I'm
to.
gonna blame the black
The
box
black
on this
box
one.
and giving me content to breaking story on the Tossing Salad podcast. All right, so that right there is known as a cold open teaser, and it's one of the ways that all of the gurus are telling me that this is how you have to open up your podcast. You have to get right to something that grabs their attention, and that right there should have grabbed your attention, because every time somebody says, you know who you look like, and I've had that happen to me several times in my life, my doppelganger. And we talk about it in the podcast. You'll have to listen to the podcast now to find out the story behind my doppelgangers. Most people have like really cool people that they look like. I'll leave it for the podcast. So today, well, and then I have to remember to introduce myself as well. So I am Brian Simatros. I am your host of the Tossing Salad podcast. Welcome back. Today we are talking to a friend of ours from the garden community, Stacy, the okayest home and garden. You can find her on Instagram. You can find her on TikTok as well. And we're sitting down to talk to Stacy on a few different things. But what I want you guys to understand, and I'm slowly understanding myself as we're doing these podcast episodes. When people ask me, what is the Tossing Salad podcast all about? In my head, I have an idea of what I want to do here. Getting it described in a way that other people understand, that's been hard to do. In a nutshell, any topic but with gardeners. And I know if you're not a garden person, you're like, well, why the hell would I care to listen to this? The thing is, we're talking like one-off topics a lot of times. We're talking about things that you might be interested in. And the person that I am talking to are people within our garden community. Does it matter that they're in the garden community? No. It's just these are the people that I know because I have developed relationships with people, especially on Instagram, being on there for the last 8 years, that I can convince some people to come onto this podcast, the podcast that is named the Tossing Salad Podcast. Tell me that's not hard to get regular people to want to take part in, but to come on and talk about different things. What have we talked about in the last few episodes? Let's see. If you're interested in Star Wars, Taylor Swift, social media in general, the headaches that come with that, and operating an Instagram account, a TikTok account, starting up a YouTube account, which we are starting. We have started up a YouTube account. And this past week, we went live, big live extravaganza, 2 hours. I went on with a friend of mine, Chelsea, who she did the Star Wars podcast with me. And this is a brilliant idea. What we did is we went live on YouTube, the Tossing Salad podcast YouTube page, the brand new one, which we have like 75 followers. We went live streaming TikTok lives the other night. So we are commenting, and I wouldn't say we're making fun. We're just commenting on the lives that we come across on TikTok. Guess how many people we had watch that live? 0. 0.0. 2.5 hours. Not one person stopped by to see what we were doing, but we had a lot of fun. So what I'm inviting you all to do, if you're listening to this podcast, subscribe to the Tossing Salad Podcast YouTube page. And then next time we go live and do fun things, we're trying to do some creative, something different. And again, it could be anything ... with gardeners. But anyways, let's get to the podcast episode at hand. This is Stacy, the okayest home and garden.
We've got a sove tonight.
Is
A
that
classy,
is that white?
unrefrigerated. Yes. And it's unrefrigerated because I'm a glutton for punishment.
Now, are you a regular black box wine drinker, or are you doing this just because you know that this is my choice of wine?
This black box of wine is about 3 weeks old.
How
So
how does it last
I,
that long?
that's a great question. Part of it is I'm mature and know that if I drink too much wine, I will get sick. So usually it's like a glass a night if I'm choosing to drink wine, or I like it in my kitchen for recipes, actually.
Right? For like cooking and stuff?
Yeah, for cooking. So it's, but it's handy because I was single for a long time and it's a commitment to open a bottle of wine. It's less of a commitment to open a box. Even though there's a lot there, it's not a huge commitment.
So in the
It's like, oh, you
single
can take your
days,
time.
how long would a
Hmm.
box of wine last then in the
Oh,
single days?
probably a month,
Yeah.
I'd say. Yeah, probably. I'm not too crazy. I mean, I'm crazy, but I'm not that crazy.
I've got to find out the update on your son's trip, because I think, what was this, like a couple months ago, that you had put out there on your Instagram account that he was doing something that really piqued my interest, because I told you my son did the same thing.
Mhm.
Where's he
Yeah,
going?
so he decided the first week of school that he needed to go to Spain. He needed to take this educational trip and go to Spain. And it's funny because he came home and told me this. And I was like, huh, I haven't even been to Spain.
Right.
Well, like, are you sure about this? And he has leaned all in and he's been working full time since May. Well, not full time. In the summertime, he took as many hours as he could. But he's been working actually at a garden center
Wow,
since
that's good for
May, which
you.
is like, yeah, it's is it though? Like, do I need another excuse to go to the garden center
It's
and
always
spend
nice
money?
to have somebody on the other side that can help us. What's his
Hmm.
discount?
I think it's 25%.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So we did this candle fundraiser and I haven't even gotten to ship the candles out yet. I shipping to me is like, and it's been hard because I work full time and I can make all the excuses up in the world, but I have to get these candles shipped out because
Right.
we did this candle fundraiser. And then about a week before Christmas,
Now the candle fundraiser was to help
yeah,
pay something that you guys could do, right?
right. So it's interesting with these educational trips, the teachers really want kids to participate, and I'm all about that. And the teachers at his school are super supportive, and they tried to organize, like, my experience with fundraising is always through sports and athletics. Like the booster club organizes X, Y, or Z, like the candy bars, and usually it's through a nonprofit umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
With these kid trips, they can't even use the school's nonprofit umbrella.
Right.
And so the families really have to kind of figure it out. And I noodled on this, which, ugh, I hate that term, but I did ask around, like, do you guys have any ideas? And I actually leaned on the Instagram community
Mm-hmm.
and my friendships that I've built through Instagram.
Isn't it great to
As,
crowdsource that way?
it's amazing. And I was given a suggestion to just ask for donations on Instagram, but I can't like do that without giving something, which is like maybe something I should work on.
It's hard.
Um it is. And so about a week before Christmas, it was a Friday. It was about 1:07, which is like random that I remember like
To the
almost the
minute.
exact
Yeah.
time. It's just how my brain works. It's bizarre. I get a DM in Instagram from a follower, and this person I've never met before in real life. And she said, when you get donations, do you get an email? And I'm like, what? So I checked my email, and sure enough, there was an email notification, and this follower had paid Tim's trip off.
What? Explain this again.
Exactly.
Explain this again. This is crazy.
Exactly. Well, here's the deal. Like, even when I had vetted throwing this out there on Instagram,
Yeah.
it's there are so many amazing people in our world, in our community, in our country that are willing, like, they have the means to support what they want to support. And kids traveling and gaining experience hit a chord and a heartstring. And this person was generous enough to do this for my son, for me, for my family. Like, I am the next day, I spoke about it in my stories and I blubbered genuinely.
Right. I'm actually getting chills thinking about this, but I want you to
Mhm.
continue because I know how important this is.
Yeah. I mean, Brian, I DM'd Steve Hartman from CBS Sunday Morning because I'm like, you got to do a story on this. This is amazing. Because it was just pure and genuine and so amazing to have someone that doesn't really even know me but through a screen. And there he is. There's the
There's
kiddo.
yeah.
Yep. Doesn't even know me but through a screen. Just do that. Just set, and that's like a significant amount of money. And what this person doesn't know, and what I didn't share about in social media or on social media, was in that past week, my son and I had some serious conversations about finances and money because
Yeah.
he's got a car right
Sure.
now, 2004 Passat with issues.
He's sick. Is he 16, 17?
He'll be 17 in
Okay,
February.
so
So he's
he's
almost
about the same
17.
age as my youngest who went on a similar trip. So keep going.
Okay. Okay. So it was one of those deals that we had just dropped a chunk of cash on his car. And I was having one of those mom financial freak out moments, but not in a way like I'm not angry about it, but money and finances and only having a piece of pie so big, like
Yeah.
you got to teach your children, in my opinion, how to make some hard choices. And Tim had actually suggested canceling the trip.
Right.
And I looked at him and I was like, and we were driving. I remember the highway we were driving on, but I can't remember where exactly we were going. And I'm like, no, that's not what we're doing. Like, I don't share this and these frustrations with you, buddy, because we need to cancel. It's more me trying to teach him,
Sure.
like, priorities and whatnot. And like, we're going to have to work together to figure it out. And I think it was just like a few days later, this happens. And I actually texted him during his school day and told him
Yeah.
because I couldn't believe
Right.
it. And he got in trouble, but I didn't care
Right.
because I was like, this is too good.
You know, having that kind of a conversation with him where because as the parent, you're having to
Mm-hmm.
balance the realistic purse strings that you have to kind of deal with, and there's just certain things that it's just not in the budget. And I know how much this probably meant for you to have him have this opportunity to go, because not everybody gets a chance to do it, and especially when you just don't have the money to do trips like that anyways. We're in the same
Mm-hmm.
boat.
Did your son love the trip?
He I will say this: my youngest son, who took the trip, and he ended up going to Germany. The trip had been canceled several times. They were supposed to go to Panama, and then they were supposed to go to some other place in the Caribbean, all because of COVID. He was supposed to have gone
Mm.
2 years ago. And
Mm.
then finally last year they were able to organize it to go to Germany. But he is the type of kid that I told my wife, I said, I swear, if he comes back and he's just like, meh, what, I was going to kill him. Because I know how hard it was to come up with the money. And we were very fortunate. We had a lot of family members kind of pitch in, grandparents
Mm-hmm.
pitched in, but not everybody has
Mm-hmm.
we were lucky and fortunate to have that. But my wife did a lot, and I said if he doesn't come back just absolutely loving this trip, and he kind of has a smart ass attitude anyways. He came back and you can tell he loved the trip, and he came back a different person.
I have coworkers at my work who my one coworker actually sent her son to South America while he was in high school to do like a study abroad, like for a family exchange thing.
Right.
And her son came back a different person too. And I think Timothy he's amazing. He's just a good human. I don't know how else to explain. He's not perfect.
Sure.
He's just a good human.
Is he a homebody or no?
He was until he started dating this year. Which that's been an adventure.
We can't get into the girlfriends just yet. Maybe that's a whole nother podcast.
Oh, you have no idea. I mean, yeah, I would love that.
But you're saying like mine, and really both my kids are like this. They kind of like just being at home, and it wouldn't have come to the top of their list of things that they would want to do in doing a trip like this. So that's why I was kind of impressed that he was open to doing it. And the big difference between my oldest and my youngest has always been an adult since he's been like 5. We've always been able to he just makes the right decisions. He takes care of everything. No big deal. My youngest is just different. And so I was, my wife and I were kind of worried. We're like, he's going from 0 to 100 on this trip. And he's going to not just somebody else's house for the weekend or down to the lake for a couple weeks. He's going to be in a completely different country. I wouldn't do it. I'm a homebody. I don't like being out of my comfort zone. And I was like, I can totally see him wanting to bail. And I was going to strangle him then also, but he was like, I still want to go. And he came back completely a different, like more grown up. And we were very proud of him for being able to do it. I mean, the pictures that they took, he just had a smile on his face, hanging out with the other kids that went on the trip. And I was like, oh my God, he has done something that I have never done in my life, nor will I probably do.
Yeah, it's going to be powerful. I'm going to be a mess while he's gone. But I am really excited to live vicariously through him with this. And I cannot wait to pick him up from the airport when he gets home.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Well, hopefully you'll have one of the adults take plenty of pictures.
He's been assigned. He will take pictures and he will take selfies.
Oh, your son's been assigned to do this.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, like, how do you thank someone for doing what this person did, but show them what they were able to provide? So I'm not sure if they're going to hear this or if they're listening, but we're going to make a scrapbook, like a photo book through some online platform. Yes. And that person will get this in the mail.
That is awesome.
They did that. Like, they helped. There was a lot of people who helped. And that one last donation, which just blew me away, I can't think of anything better to do than that.
That's an investment in your son and his future. That's just a wonderful, fantastic story. Wow.
And it's all because of Instagram.
Well, I'm glad we started on something positive for Instagram and social media, because I'm sure at some point I'll turn it around the other way. But I love that story. And when I saw you talking about it on Instagram stories, I had to go back. You know how you're seeing something, and sometimes you've got other things kind of going on, or the volume's down or something. I'm like, that sounds like the same tour and trip that my son did. So I went back and listened. I was like, and I immediately had to let you know, I was like, no matter how much it costs, and I know it costs a lot, zero buyer's remorse from us
Mhm.
on it, he will absolutely love it. And
Mhm.
you will just, you'll miss him, but every single day you're like, oh my God, he's having an incredible time over there. And if you
Absolutely.
don't like
Yeah.
his girlfriend now, maybe he meets somebody in Spain.
No, I don't want him to move
Oh,
to
okay.
Spain. Are you crazy?
He'll
No,
bring somebody back from Spain.
I love his girlfriend right now. She is amazing. She works on a farm in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's from a great family. She's a great
She's not going on the trip.
personality. No, she's not. She might be like, this is the type of person this girl is, like leading a Girl Scout camp for youth that
Sure.
week or something like
Oh well,
that. So,
that's nice to hear about the boy's girlfriend.
yeah, she's really cool. Where they have a very good friendship foundation, and that's what I'm encouraging right now.
Well, that's great. Now, is the trip this summer? Okay.
Yes, it's in July. So,
And so he just probably has a few small things to have to pack or have to still get, I guess,
mhm.
for the trip.
We did like trip stuff for Christmas.
Yeah, we did the
So,
same.
like the neck pillow for the flight and a passport holder, and then the European
Yeah.
adapters. So,
Now,
he
will he
should be
go? Are you going to get
good.
like money for him to take over? Like we had to get, what do the Germans have? Francs?
Oh,
German francs. So we had to order it from our bank, and it took a couple weeks to get the money in because they said, they should probably take a couple $100 worth of
hmm.
something. So,
Yeah, I think that's part of the to-do list still. I mean, this is all new to me.
yeah.
But we'll send him with some cash in, I think euros are in Spain and Portugal. Um and then I don't know, we might look into a Visa card for him
Sure.
to have over there for an emergency. I'm such a worrywart though, Brian. Like I have friends who expatted to London,
Yeah.
and before I committed to this trip, I was like, so if I'm typing, so if Timothy comes overseas, and is this a swear friendly podcast?
Yeah, it's totally a not made for kids, but I've got so many people that say, "Oh, I listened to it in the car with my kids," and I was like, "How?"
Right. Well, so if I was like, if Timothy goes overseas and shit hits the fan with the world, will you please help me get him and make sure he's safe? And this guy has known Tim since he was a baby,
Yeah.
and him and his wife are wonderful. And they're like, absolutely. I'm like, okay.
And that goes through your head.
Hmm.
We said the same thing. If he gets, what's the possibility that he gets targeted as an American or something goes on, some country
Oh,
invades another one while my kid's there. What are we gonna? I mean, every
yeah,
crazy
yeah.
thought will go through your head.
Oh, I know. I've done it. I've been there. And he is the typical American tall, white, skinny kid. He's like been doing the weight rooms. He's got his braces off, so he's got the straight teeth. Wears the athletic
And they're
shoes. I'm
probably
just
like
like,
his
oh,
mom's probably loaded. Let's get this one.
little do they know. Good luck.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad that that's all worked out for him, and looking forward to hearing some more things as you guys get closer to sending him off. And I mean, he is going to come back, probably a more mature, just a different kind of person that you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
really feel like, I am so glad he had this opportunity. And that's all we can hope for as parents, is that our kids have opportunities that maybe we didn't. Now,
Mm-hmm.
would you want to go on a trip like this or no?
Oh heck yeah. I was super super lucky. I grew up in the Twin Cities area. And when I was a junior in high school, so the same age that he was in, I took a 0 hour marine biology class,
Yeah.
which was a prerequisite requirement if you wanted to take a trip to the Grand Cayman Islands to go scuba diving.
Yeah.
And my parents let me do it.
You went to the Grand
And
Cayman
so
Islands?
I went to the Grand Cayman Islands after my junior year of high school and spent a week scuba diving. Now, here is where we're going to like level what inflation has done to our world,
Mm-hmm.
I remember how much that trip cost with airfare, scuba diving for a week, all meals included. How much do you think that would cost?
What year was
Round trip
this?
airfare direct from Minnesota.
What year?
This would be the summer of 2000.
Summer of 2000. So that would be 3 years after I graduated college. I would put that trip at like 1,200.
Close. It was
Okay.
$1,500. All meals, scuba diving. And that was still a huge commitment for my parents. And
Yeah.
I can't imagine it was easy. This Spain trip was like 3 times that cost.
Yeah, we were just, I think, right under 5 grand.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, and that's like there's the tour costs, and then there's the passport and the supplies you need, and those like hidden costs
Well,
to
sure, because
travel.
you're like, okay, here's some play money, bring something back that
Hmm.
that's gonna remind you of your trip.
Hmm. I want him to send me some jamon.
What is that?
Apparently, it's like Spanish ham, and he's like, "Mom, I don't think you can send that." I'm like, "Figure it out.
So
I
what?
want to try it."
So he's going just so it's just in Spain, correct?
It's Spain and
Spain
Portugal.
and Portugal. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fan.
So he'll get to see, I think there's 7 stops on his trip.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe Morocco is one of them. I don't have them. Lisbon, is that in Spain? I'm geographically challenged.
Lisbon's in
I'm just like,
Portugal.
yep, I think that's one of them. Madrid, I'm assuming. I don't know. It's going to be amazing. It'll be.
So are you so
I'm
the week that
excited.
he's so when he's it's 2 weeks, right?
I
10
think it's
days?
12
12
days or
days?
something like that. Yeah.
So are you wanting your Instagram garden friends to keep you occupied, or are you just going to be completely just off grid? Not you don't want anybody messing with you. You're going to be 24/7 checking
Have all the wine.
all the wine
Yeah.
stockpiled.
We're going to actually host Josh's like high school friends that weekend after he leaves.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be in like hosting duty to try and keep myself preoccupied
Right.
to not cry.
And not send him 1,000 messages,
I know.
and to be able to be like, I haven't heard from him in 3 hours. I hope he's
How
doing
much
good.
did you hear from your kiddo when he was in Germany?
Uh, I didn't expect to hear from him at all. He'd go through my wife, but we did not hear from him hardly at all. We saw updates from our tour leader, who was responsible for taking a lot of the pictures and stuff. So my wife would log in every day and be like, "Oh, look at the pictures," and she would send me a few that my son was in. So we knew he was, still accounted for. But
Mhm.
after the first few days, we were okay with not hearing from him because we're like, his own person. He doesn't revolve
Yeah.
around us. This is
Yeah.
strange.
It is. And with him being your youngest, right?
Yeah.
That's a vibe. Like have you guys started the college tours for the youngest?
The
Like
the
or the
youngest, no,
post
my
high
oldest,
school?
yes, because he's going to his second semester of his senior year. So we've done the whole college
Wow.
stuff the last
We
year.
started, so Tim's a junior this year, and we started doing college tours in the fall,
Yeah.
and that's a whole nother vibe.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, they're getting
and
ready to
it's,
leave you.
I know. And that's like what we do, right? When you're a
Well,
parent,
supposed to.
you're
I
supposed to.
I
Yeah.
I'm excited for them to leave. It is a little different and sad to think about it, but they have to go and enjoy and do their own life.
Mhm.
Plus I'm getting kind of tired of spending money on them. I'd like to spend more money on the garden.
Wait a second. Like, you think it's going to stop when they go to college?
Oh, it'll stop. Once they leave, I'm changing the locks. We may not even be here anymore. I'm like, I am gone.
Oh, I'm going to check in with you in a year.
Yeah, I'll
And
still be
I
here.
want to see how that goes. Because it'll be like, but they're hungry.
Yeah.
Like, they need to go to
Yeah.
Subway
Well,
or whatever it is. Like, I'm optimistic that it'll slow down when he gets to college, but I am realistic knowing
Right.
Doubt it will.
Well, it's the next step for them, and we got to be kind of
Yeah.
excited for them. And then it opens up
Hmm.
opportunities for us to invest a little, maybe in our gardens or whatever kind of hobbies that we have. And that's
Hmm.
one of the questions I was going to ask you tonight. And before I forget, I know that you're really big into the garden, but is there any other thing that you do that you would consider that you're just as passionate about as gardening?
Putting up Christmas lights. Like that's I really like I lean into the garden and growing stuff and hanging out with friends and like connecting with people. Those things are what charge my battery, really.
Is this more of
Like
a social
food.
thing for you on Instagram, or is it more of it's part of your gardening and growing stuff and you're sharing it? It's fun to be with other people or sharing that with other people, but or is this kind of like these are my friends. These are legitimately this is my social thing to decompress from my day and from work.
Yeah, well, I think it's a little bit of both. It's kind of everything. Where I was a young mom. I had Tim when I was 22, and social media, it was Facebook at the time, allowed me to live vicariously through others when the baby was in bed at 7:30 at night.
Sure.
And I'm really not great with technology, and we had the spring of 2020, which was hard on the world. I leaned into Instagram gardening because I've always gardened. And I thought, why not garden on Instagram? We'll see what happens. I was clueless. I had no idea about the
When did you start
community that
your account?
existed. This account, I've had an Instagram account, like a personal one,
Mm-hmm.
for a long time, but I never used it really, or I barely used it. I started the gardening version, Okayest Gardener. I think it was like very late spring 2020, but I'm like an extroverted introvert at first. Like I have big energy, but I'm timid about it.
Okay.
And a good example of that was probably a year and a half ago when you were starting to get really big in on the remixes,
Okay.
and you are great at encouraging others and like trying to get others to play with you on technology and in social media.
Well, it's fun. I mean,
And
it's
it
fun to have
was,
somebody do it with you as opposed to
yeah.
always doing it by yourself. But yeah.
Well, and it's to me, it was intimidating because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I didn't have a lot of time to kind of figure it out because I still work a day job.
Yeah.
Like I still clock 40 hours a week. And it was fun, but it was scary to me. So, like, the whole idea of gardening on Instagram was fun, but scary because, and that's why I leaned into the Okayest brand because I'm not an expert. I don't know. All I know is that I'm trying and I want other people to try.
Are you afraid of putting yourself in terms of the remixing and getting on board with doing stuff with other people on Instagram? Are you or were you afraid of putting yourself out there, or were you afraid of making yourself look silly, or you didn't want people to necessarily laugh at you or something? Like what was the
No,
reservation?
I just didn't know how to do it.
So it's more
I didn't know how to
technology.
like, yeah, it
Okay.
was the technology fear. I didn't know how to like lip sync and know what like my mind wasn't working to be able to remember what someone else was saying so I could lip sync along with
Right.
them or lip sync along a script. And I was just winging it in the dark and I felt stupid. Like who am I? I don't know what I'm doing. Um and over time in the last couple of years in this account, I have talked with so many people and through voice chats, like voice messages back and forth,
Sure.
through DMs, and then I've started storying most mornings
Yeah.
with my silly little coffee cheers
In the robe.
because it's like in the robe and hey, let's give someone a cheers because I love I love a cheers. It drives my family nuts.
Have you had a robe
It's me.
malfunction? Like I've wondered that when I see you in your robe. I'm like, do you have to make sure you have
So today I've got a tank top on.
for
Um,
people not watching the video portion of this, she just went to grab her robe and completely, not that I was worried about anything, but it's just you're not ready for it to where she grabs the robe and just splays it out because you're thinking she's gonna have something under there. But she has been drinking.
I I started. I'm not through my glass yet. We're sipping. I I will say that I haven't had a robe malfunction that I know of yet. I don't think so.
No slips of
Um,
any kind.
but I don't have a tank top on in the mornings, so I am
You
a
wake up
little.
the
I'm
next day and all of a
cognizant.
sudden one of your stories is like super viral for some reason.
Ah, is any press bad press? I don't
There you
know.
go.
Yeah. So no, I haven't had a robe malfunction yet. Um, but yeah, it's okay. Now I forgot what we were talking about.
Well,
I think I have undiagnosed ADHD, to be
I do
honest.
too,
I'm all
and
over
we're
the
gonna have
place.
problems through the podcast because there's a lot of things that'll go through my head because I'm
Yeah.
one of the things I'm working on is letting the other person talk and finish. But as you're talking, stuff goes through my head that I want to follow up on, and then I forget or I get distracted, and I'm like, oh.
Hmm.
But as far as the rope thing,
You got to be Amanda. You got to write it
I
down.
can't, I've got my notebook here, and I've got a pen, and I'm like, I'm gonna try to be like Amanda and be organized. I just that I don't function that way. I cannot be organized. I
Yeah.
have to have it has to be unorganized chaos for me to organize it in my head. I've tried.
Yeah. You
But
know that though, and that's okay.
but as far as the robe goes, when did you decide that that's going to be kind of the signature?
The shtick.
Well, I don't know if it's a shtick, but it's something that I think kind of reinforces your when you said before that you were kind of
Hmm.
leaning into the okayest gardener type thing to where it's we're not here to kind of impress anybody, and where you get super dressed up and then it's got to be perfect and the feed has to be perfect or whatever. But do you remember when you were like, yeah, I'm just going to start doing this in
Absolutely.
my robe?
So a lot of it was like when I get up in the morning, first thing, I'm a morning person. No one else in my house is up. The kiddo's now starting to get up early because he does morning lifting from 6 to 7.
Sure.
But then I've got the house quiet to myself from 6 to 7.
Yeah.
And that's usually when I check in with people. But there was this there was some chatter on Instagram about all these filters everyone was
Yeah.
using to like feel for self-confidence, empowerment, but also part of it to me was putting a filter on because you thought you had to look a certain way,
Sure.
like hide blemishes, hide wrinkles,
Hmm.
look like you had full makeup on, whatever. And at that point in time, I was like, no, I'm not doing it. So I don't use filters on Instagram anymore, ever. And when I get up in the morning, I am checking in with my friends casually, and you don't get changed or dressed most of the time when you check in with your friends.
I I used to. Oh, well, I'm not. I don't enjoy looking at myself. Let's just say that. And years ago, and I'm a photographer, kind of videographer for the company that I own, that I make do my business with. I'm always behind the camera,
Mm-hmm.
and I've always hated to be the center of attention. I hate being in front of the camera. I hate the way that I look. And one of the things that I have really, really worked on with this account is being comfortable in just this is it. And when I made the conscious decision years ago, I've had my account for 8 years now, to where I would actually get in front of the camera and start doing some things. I wanted to be as this is how you would see me if you were here, no matter what. As
Mm-hmm.
far as like I don't do filters, although there's times where I'll pick up my phone and I'll start to record something I'm talking. I'm like, why do I look like that? And you accidentally like hit a filter and like your face is all super smooth and like my eyes are like super bright and I'm like, okay, how do I turn that off?
Mm-hmm.
But I love the fact that because I kind of started out with just this is it, Like, I don't care if my beard looks like it's like this because I was laying on it in bed, and I look like I just got up. My eyes are puffy because I've been rubbing them because I've got allergies. But I feel like I'm not putting. I don't have to worry about putting on a facade or something that's just not me, because then that would be stressful for
Mm-hmm.
me. And for people that don't like that, I totally get it. I'm all for everybody doing what they do. If you like getting all done up, that's fine too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just added
Absolutely.
stress for me, and I like just kind of being, this is it. I used to worry about, I would wear the same hoodie all the time. I'm like, oh my god, everybody's gonna see that I wear the same freaking
The
hoodie,
Mizzou
the
hoodie,
Mizzou
right?
hoodie, all the
Yes.
time. And I'm like, who am I trying to impress?
What is it? Daniel Radcliffe would wear the same outfit in England so that the paparazzi stopped harassing him.
Yeah, I mean, a little.
You're
I mean,
just you
he's
got the paps chasing you, dude.
million
It's
dollar
just
guy. I mean, but
right. Well, it's one of those deals that I don't want perfection or certain huge like bounties. I don't want like people to think that if they failed it was worthless
right.
either. Like that's where I think early on in my account, someone commented, and it was a follower who was like, "Okay, is awesome," because I think I had said it in a story or in one of my captions for something,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "Yes, it is." And they're like, "You should use that as your mantra." I'm like, "Okay," and it just stuck because okay doesn't mean bad,
And that was how you came up with
and
your name in 2020.
no, that's how I came up with the tagline, "Okay is
Okay.
awesome."
Okay.
I leaned into this gardening account as the okayest gardener in Minnesota. And I was inspired by that because I had a friend who had recently had a baby, maybe in like the previous 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And for Father's Day, his first Father's Day, he held up a picture of his son screaming, and his shirt said okayest dad. And I was like, yes, that's something that you got to lean into
Sure.
in all aspects of your life. And so for me, it was okayest gardening.
And I think you kind of the content that you put out also. There's a lot of things to where you're just like, hey, I tried, didn't
Mhm.
work out, and
I
you kind
think
of
I
just show everything.
harvested last summer of 2022. I think I harvested off of 13 tomato plants 2 tomatoes. I'm not even kidding you.
Right.
Because I grew in the shade. I've got these insanely huge trees in my front yard, and a couple of them are in my neighbor's yard, and then one's in mine. And I don't have, like, it's just not a lot of space. So I was like, lovely. Like, that happened.
But I think there's more of that happening than seeing the perfect tomato that you'll see on Instagram. And we all love seeing a perfect tomato or a
Right.
perfect cucumber. And
Yep.
being gardeners, you want to see some of the successes. But I think what kind of attracts me to certain accounts are the ones that also show things that are just every day. I got 3 tomatoes this entire summer. Not 3 tomatoes
Mm-hmm.
today, three the entire summer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it is kind of hard to find that in a way. And I am type A. If I could be perfect, I would be. Don't get me wrong. I don't want anyone to think that I'm just like I don't know how to explain it. Like I do try hard. I would call myself a try hard, and it is so nice to have it not be perfect in the end and being okay with that. It just feels good. It's like, oh, well, I learned something and I'm just going to pivot and try something different next time.
But it's also good for us when we see something like that. We see Stacy post something that it's okay for it to look like this, for a tomato to be kind of, a little dumpy or something,
Mhm.
because then we feel like we're not alone. There's other people that can't grow cilantro. What?
What? Oh, that's cilantro. I can't get it to grow either, really.
I didn't you grow more mold on yours than you did cilantro, or
Yeah, but then it grew.
the mold or the
Then it
cilantro?
actually like the
Oh,
cilantro did. It championed itself through the mold and was like shooting off like fireworks. It was pretty. That's why it was like mold doesn't necessarily mean it's done,
yeah.
but it's still a weird herb. It's weird.
I'm gonna give it one more try. Cilantro microgreens. I notorious here on my account that of all the microgreens that I've started, cilantro's the one that I just can't get going. And I
Does it grow outside in your gardens?
the rogue coriander seeds, when the cilantro goes to seed and drops the following season, I'll have rogue cilantro growing, and that's probably the
And do you
best.
harvest it to eat it?
I try to the 2 weeks that
Hmm.
it doesn't die or go to flower, but that's not when I'm
Yeah.
having my tacos. When I need cilantro is when I can't grow it. It's the
Mm.
sorriest thing. But and I want people to understand I don't get worked up about my cilantro not growing. And you may see some of my content. I'm just having fun with it.
Hmm.
It's just I accept the fact that I can't do shit with cilantro.
Hmm.
And get it's okay. It's okay.
You learn that about yourself,
Yeah,
and you can pivot and lean into something else that
sure.
does work.
And for me it's all funny content.
Hmm. Well, your Thai long beans are something to talk about.
Well, they're known. My Tai
They're
Long beans, yeah, they're known.
Yeah, I'm gonna try those for the first time this year.
You'll get sick of them. You'll grow so
Really?
many, yeah, you'll get sick of them.
Oh, you just wait.
And you
I
just
doubt
your
it.
freezer will get sick of them. Your neighbors, they're almost like cucumbers for some people, or zucchini. You can't just
Do you like cut them up into little sections to eat them?
when we actually eat it, yeah. So I'll cut the ends off, and then depending on how we're going to eat them, I can cut them up into like 1-2 inch sections, and then saute them, or however we're going to eat them. But I
Okay.
mean, they're a fantastic. If you're trying to find something, because grocery prices are kind of crazy, but you're looking for fresh vegetables and you want something that's going to more than make up for the dollar packet of seeds.
Hmm.
Beans, I think in general, are a great thing to grow, especially for people in warmer climates, warmer zones that we grow. You're Minnesota, right?
Yes.
What zone are you?
It's zone 4B.
4B. So you're a couple zones higher than us. But we have a hard time growing certain
Remind
things.
me. Remind me. It's cold.
Oh, there you go.
We need more wine.
She's tapping
It's
into her
cold.
wine box. So
Yes.
when you would you say now the reason for your account is the same as when you started, or has that changed?
It is the same, and it's also, I've added more reason to it, if that makes sense. So, Kate and I recently did a reel together because we were chatting
Kate,
about
the bloomin' truth?
the
Kate?
Bloomin' Truth
Okay.
Kate. Yeah. We were chatting about our purpose on Instagram. And I know over time, a lot of Instagram gardeners have talked about this confusion and frustration around judgment towards accounts that
Hmm.
monetize. And that's like a hot topic.
Money's
Um,
always a hot topic, sure.
Always 100%. And first and foremost, my account is about community, trust, and connecting with others. I think I couldn't have imagined the things this account has brought me when I really did start it a couple of years ago. Um, with the community and the friendships and the connections I've made with people. I had a bunch of Instagram folks over for brunch last spring. Like, and we walked around Como Conservatory together, which if when next time you're up in Minnesota, if you come up here for hockey
Yeah.
again, check out Como
I
Conservatory.
wish I
That's a
would have
hot
known
plug.
that before, because obviously for
Yeah.
hockey you have to go to Minnesota. Minnesota's the
Hmm.
state for hockey, and my son's on one of the travel teams here in St. Louis, and so we have to always go travel to find competition. And there's always stuff up in Minnesota, so we've been up there several times.
Yeah, and you better let me know, and I'll meet you for brunch and take you to Como
Hell
Conservatory.
yeah!
It's a great place. I think the whole family would love Como, and it's got a zoo
Mm-hmm.
attached and it's free with donations.
Sure.
So it's a great local spot. Um,
We were talking about the
but community
monetizing.
is first. Yeah, community is
Yeah.
first. And when I build up that trust, of course I want to monetize that, but I don't want to monetize it on the community. I want to monetize it by sharing with the community things that do work for me, but making a business pay me to do it. Not make a business tell me how to tell people, but partner with a business and set up an agreement that they will trust me, that I will be honest and I'll share my opinion and what, like, if I love their product, why I love it with the people that I'm friends with on Instagram and that I'm connected with on Instagram. And if that can continue to grow, I'm not going to stop it. I'll embrace it with a big warm hug.
I I don't know how one. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't know how I am going to address the monetization of social media. And I've said this before on several lives that I've done, on a couple of the podcasts as well. And I was fortunate in the last couple of years, as my original account had grown, that I was getting a lot of inquiries from businesses and companies wanting to send
Mm-hmm.
product and all that stuff. And at first, it's absolutely very sexy, right?
Mm-hmm. 100%.
To where you're like, oh, you want to send
Mm-hmm.
me some plastic garden stakes for free?
Here's my Addy.
Ah, right. Big time money. I'm going to start sending my kids all over the world now because I'm a big time influencer, big
Yes.
time. Uh, what's the other thing? Not an influencer, a creator,
Content creator.
content creator.
Yeah.
And I was getting a few things here and there, all stuff that I deemed were relevant to my Garden Voyeur account, all things that
Mm-hmm.
I thought would be kind of interesting. I probably early on I took in some cheap shit just because
Mm-hmm.
again, when first things first, early
It's
on,
flattering.
it's very flattering.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started feeling so dirty about it. And to the point to where even with a lot of the great I worked with several really good companies, big and small, and products that I've used that I've liked. And my problem is I don't know how to manage all that because at some point, one, it's a lot of work. If you're doing it the right
Mm-hmm.
way, it's a ton of work. And two, complete 100 transparency on stuff, that is a whole other job. That as a
Mm-hmm.
creator or as just an account holder, that you've marketed something for a company, let's just say it's this lens for
Mm-hmm.
Canon, and I use this, they send it to me, and I'm like, oh, well, check out this lens, which is so totally awesome. I took all my awesome pictures with it. And then the thing is, every time I use this, I have to disclose that I got this. And then there's going to be times to where, well, you know what? There's some things here that I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to struggle because then, or at least I struggled because then I was like, well, do I talk about it or not? And I felt there was a responsibility with the relationships that I have with the people that follow me, that I should just be open and say, you know what? I don't think this is worth $300. This lens isn't
Mm-hmm.
worth $300.
So, are you sure that every time you use it, you would have to talk about it, or you would have to disclose that it was given to you every
Anytime,
time?
I guess it depends on how you read the FTC guidelines. Amanda and I were going over this also a little bit
Mm-hmm.
back and forth, and we interpreted some things a little differently. And
Mm-hmm.
it really comes down to, okay, at what point is that going to be enforced, or at what point will you get in trouble for something? Then you have to worry about it. But for me, I'm just like, it's too much. So I quit. I stopped.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you were gifted anything, that's like a money transaction. You have to disclose it every single time.
Okay.
And so I started running into problems where, let's say, for a backpack sprayer, a very expensive backpack sprayer that they sent me, which was
Mm-hmm.
kind of cool to have.
Mm-hmm.
And I used it quite a bit, and I did a bunch of content on it. And then I slowly started to realize, one, the amount of content that I'm doing for this is worth way more than the backpack sprayer that they sent me. And then two, there's some things here that this isn't worth $200. And so I made a conscious decision that I was just going to be open. Because what are you going to do if you're the company? Not send me stuff anymore? I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started talking about the problems I had with the, let's say, backpack sprayer or even other stuff. I don't want to pick on the backpack sprayer, but they don't like that.
They also don't like when the average home influencer, which many of us on Instagram, we're just these average folks that are finding connection on a platform. And some people get popular and will grow their following, and it's wonderful. And when those average people respond with, "This is how my time is valued," we need to do that more instead of saying, because I think with the FTC things, I haven't looked into it, but what I'm hoping, what makes sense in my head,
Mm-hmm.
is many folks who do accept products now will say, I will test this. If you'd like to send it to me, I'll use it. And then we can talk about how I can talk about it on stories or talk about it with certain posts. And each story and each post, you will pay me this amount of money so that it is a paid partnership and it's not just product for content. I think we get, because it feels so sexy when that brand reaches out to you to send you this hose splitter. That was one of the first brands that reached out to me. They're like, we're going to send you this 4-way hose splitter. And I'm like,
4
whoa,
ways.
I've made it. And I remember, because we were still working from home, I ran into the office and I showed Josh. I'm like, look at this. It's happening.
Right.
Little did I know, like, no, it wasn't happening.
You start running around the office. Fuck you, everybody. I'm out of here. I'm sponsored by the 4-way hose sprayer company.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those, I'm rich, bitch. I got a 4-way hose sprayer. No. And so it's one of those deals that at that time, I admit I was extremely ignorant. And ignorance is bliss sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate the creators that talk about this. I think a long time ago, like on some late night cable show, there was some Canadian lady talk show that talked about, like, talking about money is a good thing. And I'm here to tell you, Brian, that was like the first time I heard that in my life. Because my family didn't talk about money, didn't talk about politics.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't know how to talk about money with friends. I didn't even know that it was okay to talk about money with friends. Little did I know, when you talk about money with friends, you can learn what they're doing so you don't have to create the wheel yourself. Well, especially your friends that are doing it right.
And usually
or
the people
what you perceive as being successful.
Yeah. But in this scenario though, the people that don't want you talking about money are on the other side of things. And you sharing information about money and us talking about it only helps all of us on this side of that transaction. Of course, the other side doesn't want you talking about it. This side, we should be open and honest talking about that stuff to get everybody on board with, hey, this is kind of what's going on and what to expect. And go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't even think Instagram wants you to talk about money.
Well, I mean, even a lot of their bonus stuff, it's finding
if you read the fine print, read the fine print on it. If on those bonuses, they say you are not allowed to talk about this.
I didn't know that, but
Yeah.
that doesn't surprise me, because even the bonus trying to explain, well, how come your bonus situation is different from my bonus situation?
They have improved a little bit, though, I would say. When you go into monetization tools, they have subscriptions and badges listed, and I think you have badges enabled, but I'm not sure about subscriptions yet. But if you go in there and you click on it, it'll tell you what you're eligible, like what if there's like 4 things of eligibility, and you'll have a green check mark if you've hit it.
Sure.
And it's empty if you don't. But here's the glitch. In subscriptions, I have 3 out of the 4 green check marks for that. And the same check marks are for badges. And for some reason, I only have 2. Like, riddle me that. It doesn't make any, like, that doesn't make any sense. And that doesn't add up.
So going back to your statement from 15 minutes ago about if you're going to monetize, you want the money to come from the corporate side of things, or the companies or whatever. Badges, subscriptions.
I will never do subscriptions.
But badges, subscription, those are all coming from followers.
I know. With the badges thing, the way I see badges is it's not required. If people feel like they want to give, I think Tim's trip is a perfect example. If people feel like they want to give, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to tell you give to me, but I'm not going to say no. Because it will help me eventually. Like, ultimately, it does help.
Sure.
I will not do subscriptions because I'm not qualified to do subscriptions, first of all.
But if somebody's willing to pay, why would that bother? I'm just asking the question.
I will never, I'm going to say this because I stand behind it. I will never in good conscience put a paywall up to have access to whatever craziness I create on Instagram.
Well,
I can't.
What if it's for more robe content? Subscribe for more robe content. Now you get to see different color robes that you get to wear.
Nope. No, and here's why. So going back to, my past and my history with Tim, I was a solo mom at 22.
Right.
Solo, like very solo. And that was by choice for personal reasons, including safety. And it was not easy. It's never easy to raise a baby. It's really hard when you're doing it solo at the age of 22. And there was like a time in my life where I came home and my power was cut off. It's not a time I was proud of, but daycare is expensive. There wasn't a lot of supportive services. My family doesn't have a ton of money. It was hard. My mom was my angel who helped me get my power turned back on. But like, life was not easy. It was very hard. And there are so many people that life is not easy. And if they have a phone and Instagram and can access something, some community, I would not charge for that. I can't.
Well, would you? So, because I think you could look at this also as an argument for the subscriptions, in a sense that, let's say you are that single mom and it's hard to go out and find a well-paying job that makes up for daycare and all that stuff, but you can set up a subscription to your Instagram or TikTok account, and you spend X amount of time throughout the day to where you're just engaging in content on lives and stuff, and for people to get access to that engagement to you, they're willing to pay you. And the reason why I bring it up is because I've been recently, in the last couple of weeks, really kind of paying attention to what goes on lives. Mostly on TikTok, not so much on Instagram.
Oh my God. Have you seen those scratcher lives on TikTok where they just like scratch off tickets?
Really? It doesn't surprise me.
Bizarre. I was like, what the hell
and what,
is this?
Hundreds or thousands of people watching?
Yes.
And yes. Tipping and sending stickers and
they scratched off probably $500 worth of scratch off tickets.
And how much do you think they get tipped in showing that on a live?
I have no idea.
Probably more than makes up for what they're paying for the tickets.
Maybe. It was the weirdest thing ever. And I told my son about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, TikTok lives are weird." I was like, Yes, they are.
They're the weird. Anything that we can come up with right now and say, oh, I bet you anything nobody's doing this on a live. I guarantee they're
Oh no,
probably
they're
doing
doing
it.
it.
And
There's robe content. We know
there's
this.
thousands of people watching it late at night, and they are
Yes.
tipping, and you're seeing the
Weird.
stickers and the badges flying everywhere, and
Yeah.
I'm like, holy cow, what am I watching? First of
How?
all, what am I watching? And then
Yes.
20 minutes later, why am I still watching this? And oddly enough, you get
Hmm.
sucked into some of the dumbest things, and you're like, I kind of see this person has tapped into something.
Hmm. It's weird. So weird. You know, I do not dog anyone that's doing a hustle, right?
Mm-hmm.
I I've hustled the last 16 years of my life. I was a worked full time and I drove for Lyft.
Mm-hmm.
So I was your Lyft driver. Where are you going? Let's have fun.
There's
And
Lyft
I like,
drivers doing lives.
oh really?
Yeah,
No idea. I
yeah,
mean, I drove enough where I had one of those Lyft lights
yeah.
in my
Mm-hmm.
car. Like I got to that status. I think I've given like 500 or 600 Lyft rides in my
Sure.
life. Um, because it was on my own time, on my own schedule, and then I could do it before and after work, and it helped. I'm really thankful I don't have to hustle as hard
Right.
today. I appreciate that I don't, and I'm not going to hate anyone that does. I just will never paywall access to me. I don't, and it's not that I don't value me as a person. I just still identify with that mom at home who's about to get her power cut off and needs a friend. Like that's I can't cut my access off to that. Now that doesn't mean I won't set
Mm-hmm.
boundaries around my time or around how I could or could not interact with people, but I'm not going to paywall it. It just doesn't feel good. It feels kind of icky.
And I think that's a great example of a thing to where there's going to be some things out there that you or I we're going to say, well, we wouldn't do it, but if you want to do it, go for it.
Mhm.
And
$100%.
I think
Yeah.
that's something that a lot of people maybe if they catch a portion of a story that we post that we talk about that or uh, part of the podcast here, they're going to be like, oh, they're against people staying home and earning through subscriptions. No, it's
Mm-mm.
Stacy is not. She doesn't see herself doing that right now.
I don't know if I'd ever see myself doing it, but that doesn't mean I hate other people who do it. I get sad when I see people who I know could really impact and have the skills and the talents. I've been sad and I've had words with those people saying like, why are you doing this? It hurts my heart when I see people paywalling themselves when I know, well, I'm making assumptions if they need to or not, to be honest. And that's also not fair of me. But it just is like, oh, I wish there was a better way that we could make it work without paywalling
But
it.
but I look at it this way: if they have found something that other people will want to pay to get access to, more power to them. Um, I would be kind of curious because we're kind of dancing around a little bit of the. Let's just talk about it here real quick because I think that you guys have kind of talked about it within the last week or so within the homesteading community. Let's say there's a certain subset that are behind this kind of getting together and bundling a bunch of stuff, valuing
You
it,
said the B word, Brian. You said the B word.
valuing it at however much they value it, and then they discount it for the week, 99% off for $99, and then it's set up like almost a. I've said it before, and people got so pissed that I said pyramid scheme or multi-level marketing type stuff or whatever. It I was vocal about it when it first hit me
Mm-hmm.
months ago with the original
Mm-hmm.
bundle set because I couldn't get away from it
Mm-hmm.
until I did something about it and I blocked like 250 people. And oddly enough, this next round of stuff that has gone through, I've had 0 things hit my feed, but I've heard from several people about there's this new thing going on that they've got that has a bunch of people kind of upset, and there was a little drama a few days ago, and I'm like, wow, I feel pretty lucky because I don't know what's going on. There's nothing has filtered into my thing, but it was only because I was aggressive in blocking it. What's your thought on all that?
So it's my thought on all that is capitalism sucks. That's my thought on it. I feel like this drive to make money and the business that sets this up irritates me because it's all about capitalism and it's all about making the buck. And it's preying on content creators who are excited to finally make that buck. And I like that makes me sad, but I'm not going to hate on them. Like I talk with some, I don't talk about the B word with them. I'm just not going to go there because I don't think it's going to be a productive conversation. And I'd rather talk about like things that bring both of us joy, selfishly.
That's a great way to avoid it. I get it.
Yeah.
I respect that.
Yeah,
I think it's more personally.
hard.
I think it's more than just a capitalism. Somebody trying to make money. There's more nefarious things going on behind the scenes, and I think the same playmakers are behind all of those things. And there's something else going on that's a very creepy type thing.
Nefarious how so? Like what are you hinting at? Because I feel like you're tiptoeing around something.
What I'm saying is it's more than just people trying to make some money. There's other things going on behind it that is more and I'll say kind of cultish. There's something else there, and just simply because I haven't bothered to spend more time than I have in trying to find out who's behind all of this, but I will say what the amount of time I have spent in looking at several of these accounts, I absolutely guarantee at some point you get to a level to where you will get a ton of followers, and they're all fake followers. Mm-hmm. You will notice that a lot of their looks on their own profile pages, they're all similar looks. They use the same kind of filters. And you watch, there's an abnormal amount of those accounts that'll come on and say, oh, my account was hacked. Instagram, somehow my account was hacked. I got to start over. I'm not saying every single case, but I guarantee you a lot of those are because they got busted by Instagram for gaming the system and giving a lot of those accounts fake followers.
Maybe. It's definitely mysterious. I do think the nefarious theories behind it, I don't know if it's actually that complicated. To me, like what I envision is some kids at Harvard starting this business of bundles, being unchecked, and making an ass ton of money off of it. That's what I envision. And I think it's capitalism. And that's way too simple, but I don't know if it's I'd watch the documentary on the breakdown of the bundle. Like, because it is fascinating that it's this weird, it seems to now be extremely divisive in our gardening community, almost as divisive as monetizing in general. But it's like, it's a vibe. It's a vibe.
But
I've muted accounts in the past 2 weeks that have started doing promos on the recent bundle pitch. But I'm not to the point where I feel the need to block just yet. And we've talked about that in chat, the power of the block and just being like, nope, I don't do that often. I typically only do this with the, hey, honey, we were destined to meet DM. And I'm like, yeah, no, block.
Right.
Yeah, because it's like you're destined to be blocked, is what you are.
So give me your strategy on, and this is a great way to kind of bring to the end of the podcast here. I'm curious of your strategy of making sure that your account is an enjoyable account. Because most of us, I think, we want to come on. We've created these garden accounts because it brings us joy. We enjoy most of the people that we've come across. I mean, you mentioned it at the very beginning. Some
Mm-hmm.
of the most fantastic people that we would never have known about
Mm-hmm.
if it wasn't for social media and us getting
Mm-hmm.
into Instagram and being into the gardening community. How do you, what is your management system of keeping that fun and positive?
It just is fun. I mean, it's I am I think, and I think I've heard you say this before, that like when it becomes unfun, then you pivot and do something
Mm-hmm.
else. For the last 2 years, Instagram, this Instagram account has just been fun. I'm a little nervous as to how deep and reliant I am on Instagram. It makes me nervous if like the whole thing shut down tomorrow. I think I'd be like catatonic down in my Dexter Seed dungeon, just rocking and like,
Because of your
like
loss of connection with really good friends?
yes, yes, absolutely. But I do have like the people that I'm really close with. I have their phone numbers. Like we'll text. We'll have a text conversation and a DM conversation going at the same time about two different things. Like it's kind of weird, but it happens. And I'm trying to lean a little bit into YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube has shorts. YouTube has reels. So I'm trying to lean in and like diversify in that because technology again scares me.
Sure.
I've been trying to TikTok and the tick tacky tacky whatever. Like I cannot understand that platform. It doesn't make sense to me. Ugh. And I know you can cheat and like just upload videos you've already made from Instagram, but it still doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep having fun, checking in, connecting with people, and
How do you
I don't
how do you determine who you follow then?
if they want to talk.
Like, are you pretty loose with you if as long as they look like they have a garden account, you'll follow somebody?
I'm a little more guarded with with when I follow someone else because I'm really big. Like, if I'm following you, I want to be able to engage with
Mm-hmm.
you. And even like, I might be close to the 500 mark with following other people. That's a lot of people to try and like stay on the ups with. Um, and so I'm a little more guarded with following newer accounts, but that doesn't mean I won't support newer accounts.
Right.
Because I was not that long ago a newer account, like in some ways a thirsty newer account because I'm like, how do I meet people? What do I do? How do I do this? You have 20,000 followers. Tell me your secrets. And every like, it was tough because no one was being super open or honest about how. And I know you've used the word curating,
Mm-hmm.
and these accounts were curated. They looked beautiful and gorgeous and like very aspirational, and there's no way in hell that was their real life. I see it and I'm like, huh, no, it's just not. But I guess maybe it could have been. Can you hear my washing machine, by the
No,
way?
no. I
Okay,
think
good.
the choice of headset and microphone that you got was a good one because
Yes.
you sound good, and I don't hear
Good.
anything.
Awesome. Well, yeah, so I just if people the way I choose to follow people, I guess, is if they slide into my DMs and not in a creepy way, I'll accept their message and usually put them into my general chat thing. And the more I engage with someone, I'm like, oh, you'll slip into the primary. And then I guess I should check. When you're DMing with someone, do you have to be following them to DM with them? Probably not.
I think you
So I
have a
should
setting.
like,
I think you have a setting to accept either from followers only or from anybody, possibly.
I think I have it from anybody just because I'm weird. And that's why I get some creepy DMs every now and
Mm-hmm.
again. What's the last? Do you get creepy lady DMs?
I I just had this conversation a couple weeks ago. I've had more creepy DMs from guys. I've had more pictures sent from
Yeah.
guys,
Okay. It's the beard, man.
and it very well could be the beard. I haven't in a long time as far as anything explicit. Explicit I've had before, and it's all been on the guy side. Like I was joking with a couple
Okay.
friends of ours. Not once have I been sent boob pics, but I've had a lot of other pics of guys.
Yeah.
And it's just, I guess it's just the difference, I guess, in what we're dealing with out there.
Yeah. Well, there was like I heard an Instagrammer complain about people responding to their stories that weren't following them like really in like vulgar ways. And that day, that day, there was a someone, an account that responded to one of my stories with like 6 eggplant
Mm-hmm.
emojis. And I just looked at it and I was just like, no, dude. And I just ignored it. I'm just like, I'm not going to engage. Because that's these people, even if they're just bots or an algorithm of some sort, being inappropriate with each other, they're doing it to get a reaction.
Right.
It's 100% reactionary. And you don't need to play.
So
You
in
don't need
that
to do
case,
it.
that doesn't get a block from you?
Not, not necessarily. I am, you've been in Minnesota, man.
Yeah.
Like, I am born and raised in Minnesota, and I'm a recovering Catholic. We went there with the religion.
Uh-huh.
Not really. I just like, no. If you cross a line, sure, but I'm pretty liberal.
Sure.
Like,
And how you use
we're very liberal.
and not having to block people is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like if you cross a boundary that makes me feel unsafe, you are blocked and I'm done. I don't need that. But that thankfully that doesn't happen too often. Um that I can think of.
Yeah, and from what you said earlier, I mean, you're having a really good time on Instagram still.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a positive experience for you, so you wouldn't have to have the need to be throwing blocks and mutes a
Mm-hmm.
lot around.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've had like a couple of reels go viral. Not many, but there was one that had 1 million views, and some of the comments got nasty.
Yeah, and that's when you go
Mm-hmm.
viral. That's just, I know this is
Mm-hmm.
a shitty way to say this, but that's just to be expected. When you get outside of the comfort zone
Yeah.
of your garden community,
Mm-hmm.
then you start getting just some comments like that. And
Yeah.
I rarely will block those because those are like a one-time thing. Like they're not coming back,
Mm-hmm. Right. 100%.
you know?
Well,
Unless,
I didn't even take the time to block. I didn't even know that was a thing when this reel went viral.
Right.
That you could like block people.
Right. But my thing now with my account, and again, this is going on 8 years of being the garden voyeur and having this account and everything. My thing is I'm on here to have a good time. I want it to be as positive as possible. And I've become very comfortable in taking what little power we have as account holders
Mm-hmm.
and using that power as much as I can to help create a better environment for me. Whether or not that works for other people, we're all kind of different. But
That's
the
awesome.
guilt part of it is gone for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the early season, the first few years of the Garden Warrior, where you're wanting to follow everybody and you're wanting your account to start growing and doing all this stuff. I've said this several times in the last couple months. 2023 for me is not the year of growth and getting my account bigger. It's the reverse. 2023 for me is the year of reduction. And
It's 2023 can be the year of me. And and that's okay. I'm trying to say it's the year of we,
yeah.
but you can say it's the year of me. That works.
It's the year of me. I love that. And you mentioned, you've got you follow almost 500 people. I can't invest in more than probably to be honest with you, like 20 people. And then of that,
Right.
I can't. My personality, I've tried. I've worked on so many things personally with my Instagram account. Again, always said that it's more than just growing tomatoes and composting and stuff. It's working on stuff with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm an introvert that has a button that I can turn on the charm, and I can go out and do stuff when I have to for work. Everybody can like me.
Yeah.
When I have to.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't need, I can't. My body, my brain, I can't invest in more than a handful of people. So then I'm looking at my account, I'm like, why was I following 2,000 people?
Mm-hmm. I have boundaries with that. But do you remember when we first started chatting?
Did you send me
Because I remember
Did you
why
send me a
we
robe
first
picture or
started chatting. No, I remember why we first started chatting, and it's extremely embarrassing from my seat.
Well, then,
why we first started
perfect
chatting.
way to end the podcast. Tell me about this.
This is good. It's so embarrassing. And I thought about this. I'm like, do I tell him this or do I not? But I'm just going to tell
Well,
you.
you're going to have
and
to.
I'm going to blame the black box.
The black
on this
box
one.
and giving me content to breaking story on the Tossing Salad podcast.
It's really embarrassing, Brian, for me. So like a number of years ago, and I don't remember when, I didn't do the research ahead of tonight because that's just my jam. there was someone who went viral, I think on YouTube, but it could have been Instagram, riding a skateboard, drinking cranberry juice to the tune of Fleetwood Mac.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
I thought you were that dude.
Oddly enough, I can see it. He's a TikTok guy. He got a big Ocean Spray account or deal with that. I totally remember that happening.
That's how like anti-technology I am though, because I just like I don't follow him obviously, but when I stumbled across you on Instagram, I'm like, no way, that's the cranberry juice dude.
If you don't know what we're talking about, you have to go look up the cranberry juice TikTok guy, and then take a look at him, and then come back and take a look at me, and then in the comments when this finally gets posted, let Stacy know how close she was.
I probably need to relook him up again because I didn't like relook him up and do my diligence.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I slid into your DMs and I was like, gardening is super cool or something super geeky like that.
I love doing it with my cranberry juice.
When you responded, I'm like, whoa, he talked to me.
That's the first doppelganger that I've had that's not a serial killer. Do you know that?
Oh, seriously?
Every
Who else
single
do they
one,
think you're a doppelganger for?
Every single one, and this has been since I've been out of college. So the first company I worked for, friends of mine over the last 20 or so years, it's either the Iceman. You'll have to go look at. There's an HBO documentary on him. Write that down. Look at the Iceman. Iceman Killer.
Oh,
and the other one I got early 2000s was Scott Peterson.
No.
The one who killed
You do
Lacey.
not look like Scott Peterson. Nope.
Lacey. Nuh-uh. Well, not now I don't. Not now I don't. Early 2000s, they're very similar. If you think I look like Ocean Spray guy, I look way more like Scott Peterson.
Oh, scary. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Those are the only two. And I'm like, one of these days, I hope that somebody will say I look like somebody, not a killer. And there you go. You fulfilled my wish.
Hashtag winning.
Be like, hey, Brian, it's getting better.
He skateboards. He drinks juice. Fleetwood Mac's pretty cool. Like, and he gardens.
He went from very little money to he made pretty good bank on that.
Mm-hmm. I wonder where he is now.
He still does quite a bit of stuff on TikTok. I see his stuff pop up.
I don't understand the TikTok.
Yeah,
Even then, like, I did, like, I'm doing nows, and I'm like, yep, sitting in the same chair I was yesterday, looking at my tree.
I think like me, you, Amanda, every now and then, I think we get sucked into the nows, which is kind of like you're supposed to just take a picture right then and there of what you're doing, and it takes a picture
TikToks be real. Yeah.
front facing and and the rear facing of the camera. And a lot of people just don't know
Mhm.
what the hell to do with it. So we're just like, okay, there's the ceiling fan on one of them, and another one there. I'm staring at my microgreens or something. And it's very similar to the notes thing for Instagram in a sense that it's a feature that's there that nobody really knows what to do with.
Did you get everyone to stop yet? Because I've got still a dozen people in my feed doing notes, and I've never done it. Not
I
gonna.
it got down to 2 the other night, and I thought I was going to
Mhm.
win because my thing
Mhm.
was I don't mind it. I know there's a lot of people that they're just like, I hate this feature. It looks cluttered. I agree. It's a cluttered look, but it has allowed me to interact with some other people that I normally wouldn't interact with just because I see their notes and the fact that only like 10 people are doing it. So I thought it was going to be funny, like if I just held out to be the last person in my feed that was going to use notes, and I got down to 2, and then that's as close as I got.
Mhm. Yeah, I've yet to succumb to that. I don't understand. I mean, I do get the value of like interacting with folks that you might not that get buried
Mm-hmm.
because I usually interact with folks all via
Yeah.
stories. I don't scroll up. I
Right.
scroll over with the
Yeah.
stories. And that's my jam.
A lot of people right now are like that. Nobody really looks at
Mhm.
the feed.
Right. Well, and I just started trying to clean up my feed, not to look like curated by any means, but more so that one, if I can keep growing my community and I do pitches for partnerships and paid content, people can look at my feed and be like, "Oh, she looks like she knows what's going
I
on."
love it. I'm looking at it right now, and the way you have it kind of organized. And I wouldn't say that it's like when I say overly curated. And curated's not a bad word for me. I know you and I have
Mhm.
said a couple things about curation or whatever. And curation's kind of a big thing. But
Right.
I like when I can scroll through and you've got it set up. So let's just make sure that so if you want to see Stacy's profile page, and she's mentioned a couple times she's like the okayest garden, but her actual account name is the okayest home and garden, right?
Mhm. Yep, I did refresh it to expand myself outside of Minnesota.
So because there
Yeah.
is an okayest gardener, there's a lot of people that are. So I just want to make sure that people are, if they go find you, that they're finding the right you. It's the okayest
Sure.
home and garden.
Mhm.
But I love how you have kind of the main pick on there. It's a nice pick, and then you have the same kind of way that you're talking about the okayest discard pizza, the okayest reels remix, okayest discard
Yep.
pancakes. So you kind of
The
know,
goal is to kind of do like themes, and then that little small text says like gives you a teaser of what that actual content is within that theme. That's kind of how my brain, I was like, well, that actually makes sense because if you're scrolling through a grid and there's 550 posts, you want to be able to like quick click
right?
in a way or quick tap. And it seemed clean. And so for reels, I'm trying to use a cover page like that
Yeah.
that's consistent. And then for photos, I'm not doing a cover
Well, for the
page.
reels, it really does stand out, and it looks really good. It's organized enough to where as you're scrolling, you're like, oh my god, look at the pancakes there, and I would click it as opposed to it just being a random
Hmm.
photo that it took from reels.
Hmm.
And I would imagine Instagram and their algorithm, they know what people can click or what's clickable, and I think that really helps with
Yeah,
finding
I'm
your
excited
content.
about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does make me feel good. It kind of it's like yes, my brand is the okayest and I want to have my shit together.
right.
I don't want to be like constant chaos all the time, even though that's kind of also my brand. Like I'm with you where I am chaotic and kind of ooh, there's something sparkly and oh, look, my potatoes are sprouting in a
Right.
bag or that kind of stuff, but like when you're trying to be professional, you do have to present yourself in a way that is good.
Well,
Ooh, look at you. You're so fancy.
I just wanted to do that one time tonight for the podcast. It's just part of the program that we're using that I'm able to throw up things that we're looking at.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah. And so like some things I was using, like I have these hydrangeas, so those top two pictures are hydrangeas I poached from my neighbor's garden,
yeah.
and they dry like that. And I've had those hydrangeas in that
I gotta
vase for
scoot the
like 2
window over because I
years.
don't know what other files are on here on my desktop. I'm
You
like,
couldn't see anything else. You
but
were
yeah,
safe. You
you
were
can
fine.
see here that the does it just it looks clean, but you get a ton of information that's
Hmm.
easily read that you can pick up people after the fact. So I think you've done a good job
Yeah.
on it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So hopefully, I mean, we'll see what happens. No promises, no guarantees. But it's fun. I'm
Yeah.
still finding fun in it.
Well, that's all part of our accounts. If that's your purpose. I know that's my main purpose is to have fun, be a little
Hmm.
silly, have it kind of in context of being in the garden. But to be honest with you, nowadays, as long as I'm just having fun with some people that I've met through the garden, that's kind of all I want to be doing.
Hmm.
So I'm changing a little bit of what I want my account to be and how I want to interact with people, and the podcast for one. This is obviously going to be the longest you and I have talked and in depth
Yeah.
about something, and I would say that from the get go, it wasn't necessarily awkward in a sense that we're like, oh, I don't know anything about you, and two awkward people. I mean, really, the only awkward thing is the fact that I'm using a whole new software system tonight, so I was nervous about that. And I think you had to procure a headset and microphone to get that going.
Which is totally fine. Like I said, I needed one for work
But
anyways.
this is
Like,
this
I'm
is
cool with
what
it.
interests me nowadays.
Hmm.
I've lost a little bit of the interest with the Instagram stuff and the social media, like even with TikTok, all that stuff. I'm just like, yeah, I've done it. I've done all these videos before. But sitting down with Stacy for an hour and 30 minutes and getting to know you and talking about your son's trip at the beginning and being able just to share something like that to show a little different side of you. I mean, we weren't talking about keeping your ratio of browns to greens in our compost. There's plenty of podcasts that do that.
Hmm.
I'm not interested in doing that. I'm interested in something super narrow in talking to interesting garden people I've met online and talking about just random stuff. And we got to talk a little bit about social media, and I think we were kind of pretty open about that.
Brian, I have a confession to make. You have popped my podcast interview cherry, and I don't know how you feel about that, but you did.
You've
And it was fun.
Do you listen to podcasts a lot?
I don't listen to them a ton, but I'm starting to. Like I've listened to many of this podcast and I
Oh.
love it. There's a few, but I'm more of like a really I'm entertaining for other drivers on the road
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like jamming out to music as I'm going down the highway
Sure.
to work and like singing Christina Aguilera at the top of my
Oh, I'm the
lungs or
same. Yeah.
something like that. Like, yeah, it's so I will probably try to lean in a little bit more, but I had to even like research what does podcast mean? Where did the name come from? Do you know that?
What
That's
did
a
you
hot
What
trivia
did you find out?
question. The term podcast came from a combination of iPod and broadcast.
I
That's what Alexa told me the other day.
I didn't know. I didn't know that.
A fun fact. And that was kind of interesting to me. I was like, God, Apple has their hands in everything.
What?
So
Yeah, and
yeah.
everything that's entwined with our daily lives, they have their
Hmm.
hand in it somehow. But
And yeah.
this is exactly what I find interesting and I find fun is sitting down and talking to you about a few different things here that you're not going to get into on Instagram. in the captions or even in the stories on the
Mhm.
DMs, sliding into your DMs. Now I've got to be careful about sliding into your DMs or whatever. But just talking about stuff like this and having some fun, sitting down. I would rather do this on a one-on-one basis. I get more value for me out of doing this than I do trying to figure out how to make a viral reel that nobody probably understands anyways because my
Mhm.
humor is kind of unique. But I've come to embrace the fact that I'm not making content for 99% of the people out there. I'm making content for really like 3%.
3% of our population is still hundreds of thousands of people. So,
If I only had 100,000 or hundreds of thousands listening to it. But again, we could have zero. It could just be me and you doing this, and it was
mhm.
worth it for me because I find this was fun, and I get more out of have doing this for the last hour and a half than I would anything I've posted all week long.
Mhm. It is fun. And that's my purpose though, is that human connection. And you found a platform to do that in a different way. And this has been a blast. I'd love to do more podcasts. I just don't know how or when or where. So if you ever need anyone else to chat with, I am
I
happy
will always
to
dip
dial it
back
up.
into the well here of people that want to come on and talk about various different things. And I think that's the interesting point of it is that people know you already within Instagram, within the gardening community, but I think they'll have interest in what your take is on a few different other things. It just makes you an interesting person.
I sure. I'll drink to that.
I'm empty. My box is out. My box is out.
Mm. Gosh, really? How many boxes do you go through in a week or in a
That's
month?
for another podcast.
Oh, noted.
That's for another podcast. But I mean, my wife and I we enjoy when we cook, we enjoy drinking when we cook, and
I would love to meet your wife sometime,
yeah, you've
Mrs. Garden
a
Voyeur.
lot of people have said that.
Mm-hmm.
We lead we separate a lot of things for various different reasons. She's got her own stuff
That's
too.
okay. So the one reel that she has Instagram stuff. She does like content on social media.
Um, yeah, I'm always an open book on stuff, but it's always my stuff that I'm always
Yeah,
willing to talk about.
sure.
So
Fair
I'm always
enough.
very careful on anything else that involves other
Yeah.
people in my family. Unfortunately, I used to when the kids were younger, I would have them on my videos and stuff, and I was like, yeah, that's
Uh-huh.
just not right for me to do that.
Sure.
So I kind of quit doing that.
So the one reel that went viral for me was me cutting sod in the front yard, and I recorded it on time lapse, set it to some bomb music, and it just blew up. So what people saw was me pushing the sod cutter in the front yard, and then they saw Josh standing in the front yard waiting for me. And what they didn't see was Josh pulling the reels, the wheels or whatever the big rolls of sod
Yeah,
into our backyard and relaying it in our backyard, which that ain't easy.
it doesn't sound easy.
And he got so many negative comments on that reel, like, look at that man not helping that woman out. And it was like, oh no,
I know.
oh no. And I had to kind of guard him because he's not on
Yeah,
Instagram. And I had to guard his heart a little bit from
right.
it because I was like, awkward. And I defended him a little bit, but also you don't want to like get into it with the
Because you're
trolls.
feeding them exactly what they want, like you said. Right.
Yeah. But that also gets your reel more plays.
Yeah.
Instagram doesn't care about the positive or the negative.
Sure.
They just care about the activity.
Well, I would
And
argue that they probably don't mind even more than negative because negativity always garners more traffic. And that's just with
it
almost everything
does.
in our life, unfortunately.
And that's why I'm going to say is my excuse why I don't grow that fast. It's because I'm really not a negative person. Like it's not in me at all.
Right.
I can't. So, yeah, but so I respect that you protect that part of your family and keep it quiet, and I still want to meet your wife.
Well, you never know. A Minnesota trip, although we've come probably to the end of his hockey career pretty soon, but you never know.
How does that feel? Does that get your heart?
I've been ready to be done a couple years ago. It's a
It
lot
smells.
of money. Well, yeah,
And it's smelly.
it's smelly, but it's a ridiculous amount of money. I know anybody that has kids that play like club, whatever, and it doesn't matter the sport. To be honest with you,
It doesn't.
it's
Tim's a baseball kid.
yeah, no, it's ridiculous. Every sport that's at a club level, and you know, you have parents that are willing to pay for it. That's why it keeps going on, and I've had some major issues with this, but it's also opened up a ton of doors for him as well. But so I you know, I teeter back and forth. But Stacy, we have an hour and 40 minutes for your first ever podcast. Were you nervous coming into this at all, or no?
Like yes and no.
Like, are you fine with lives and stuff, being in front of the camera?
Yeah. Okay. You know, this is me. I think I may or may not have told you this, but my first ever paid job was recording my voice. When I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
So I was hired through my elementary school by a production company to sit in a recording studio and read scripts for English as a second language.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it actually was kind of cool. Like, it was also really frustrating because the word orange, apparently I don't say right. And I still remember that to this day. I had to say the word orange like 300 times because my Midwest accent wasn't making corporate happy. And when you're 10 years old, you're like, orange. They're like, say orange. I'm like, but that's not the word.
Right.
Like, so it was much like reading scripts like, the shirt is blue. The shirt is blue. And that was what I did. And it, like, I think I got $120 for my first paycheck when I was 10.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. So this stuff doesn't make me nervous because I'm pretty much an open book.
Yeah.
I think I was more nervous that I was going to be too open and like stick my foot in my mouth. But whatever.
That's for the next podcast. We'll try to make a bigger splash in the next one. So Stacy, I appreciate you coming on. We are now officially done with the podcast. The only thing I'll add, there you have it, another fantastic episode, Tossing Salad Podcast. Look, if you enjoyed that episode, who we interviewed, if you've been enjoying our content, let me just put this out there. It cost you nothing. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers on YouTube. If you enjoyed that podcast or any of the other podcasts that we've put out, any of the content that we have out there, if you could just type in there, youtube.com, go to Tossing Salad Podcast, subscribe. It's going to allow me to do more things on our account. It's going to unlock a few things. It's going to let me do some things maybe on live. Really, it's not going to let me do anything until I really get to 1,000. But baby steps. We're all about taking baby steps here. I'm at 75. If you guys just look, one person makes a huge difference. If you've listened to this, we're providing good stuff, hopefully for you. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much.